I was so furious I wanted to call off the engagement when my fiancé's uncle showed up at my door. "Quinn, the family alliance can't be dissolved. Why not marry me instead?" I hesitated. Avery stood tall and unhurried, calm grounding his gaze. "Quinn, as long as my wife doesn't cross my one hard line, she can do anything, and I'll clean up the mess." After we signed the license, I moved into Blackwood Manor. "Cameron, are there any rules or taboos here?" "I'll follow them to the letter." His dark eyes were unreadable, brows measured and grave. "What my wife says, that's the rule." In the study he sat perfectly straight, the pressure radiating from him so heavy I couldn't meet his eyes. I clutched my teacup and forced the words out. "Did you come today to speak for Julian, Uncle?" The bridal suite security feed had just captured him racing through it with a lingerie model. I was shaking with anger and ready to break the engagement. Avery's tone carried layers of meaning. "Julian was in the wrong. It's understandable you don't want him. But the merger of our families can't be scrapped. Swap the groom instead." My reflex question tumbled out. "Swap him for whom?" The instant I asked, every marriage-age Blackwood face flickered through my mind, except the man across from me. He was the enigmatic patriarch of the dynasty, perilous, unreachable, shrouded in rumor. The Blackwoods wielded monumental power. Julian's father was merely one of the old man's overlooked sons. Even so, for the Vancests the match had been a climb upward. Julian's own mediocrity was the reason they'd accepted me in the first place. "Marry me. How does that sound?" I stared at Avery's chiseled, brooding profile, mind reeling. "Are you joking, Uncle?" I met his eyes and found no humor, only razor-steady gravity. Words deserted me. Avery spoke again, voice steady as bedrock. "Quinn, as long as my wife doesn't surpass my bottom line, she can do anything, and I'll shoulder the consequences." Was he promising me unlimited backing if I wanted revenge on Julian? 2 years earlier, when old Mr. Kingsley had fallen gravely ill, every branch of the family had schemed and sabotaged. No one expected the illegitimate Avery to surge out of the darkness and seize the crown. Now he controlled everything. Place him beside Julian, who merely clocked in at headquarters to coast on his surname, and even a fool knew which man to pick. Yet Avery felt like a midnight abyss wreathed in fog, unfathomable, treacherous. A man I could never hope to leash. If you only want a merger, Cameron, half the heiresses on the East Coast would line up. "Why me?" He lounged back, unbothered. "My mother is fond of you." Before Avery claimed power, Eleanor had been the unacknowledged mistress Cameron kept outside the family gates. Humiliated at a gala once, she'd caught my sympathy, and I'd stepped in. We'd greeted each other at events afterward, exchanged small talk. I won't give up my career after marriage. When my engagement to Julian had been announced, his mother had demanded I retire to charitable luncheons and nursery duty. Avery's voice was granite. "My wife can do whatever she wants. She takes orders from no one, and she never suffers a single slight." I drew a slow breath and locked my eyes on his. "All right." A ghost of a smile seemed to ripple across his brow, gone before it fully formed. Avery rose. In his black-tailored suit, his height alone spelled command. "Free today. Let's file the papers." My legs felt like cotton as I climbed into his car. 3 assistants greeted me politely the moment I settled in the leather seat. Then they launched into concise briefings, reports flowing like drill commands. I caught only fragments, but from their expressions Avery's casual sentences sliced straight to each problem's heart. He was magnetic like this. Eyes narrowed over spreadsheets, fingers flicking across the tablet as though born to wield empires. I watched, entranced, until the car stopped at City Hall and the driver opened my door. Inside, couples waited in winding queues. While we sat, my phone buzzed. "Mom, your things are boxed. Send me an address. I'll have them delivered." I stared at the screen until my sight blurred. "What's wrong?" I lifted a corner of my mouth, self-mocking. "She says a married daughter is spilled water. Don't come back." He took my hand, thumb stroking my knuckles. "Then we'll go to our home." I looked up and met his impenetrable black stare. For a second I forgot to breathe. "Our home," he'd said. The warmth of his palm blunted the ache blooming in my chest. When we stepped outside, 7 black sedans idled at the curb. Senior executives in charcoal suits waited by each door. The moment Avery appeared they closed in, smiles bright with calculation. He acknowledged them with the faintest nod, already accustomed. Then he glanced back at me. The cold polish of his eyes softened a fraction. I have matters to settle. The driver will take you to the manor. From the size of the retinue, those matters looked board level, not routine. Of course, go. Once his long legs disappeared into the Maybach, the entourage followed like iron filings after a magnet. Instead of heading to Blackwood Manor, I asked the driver to stop at the Vance estate first. I needed clothes. 4 plastic-wheeled trunks stood in the marble foyer. I kept silent while the housekeeper loaded them. Mom lounged on the sofa as Chloe painted her nails. Don't come back unless you must. Her tone was casual, as though she discussed weather. She couldn't wait to sweep me out with the dust. The house already felt like a sealed vault. Before I left, the old question clawed its way out. You're my real mother. Why do you hate me? Years ago, when she'd tried to trade me to a lecherous financier, I'd asked the same thing. Her answer then, this roof shelters only one mistress. But I'd always obeyed, never fought her for control. Maybe the sight of my luggage pleased her. Maybe the alliance soothed her ledger. She granted me a fuller answer this time. The moment you were born, you stole your father's love. Shouldn't I despise you? You're a natural fox. One pretty face lures the Blackwood patriarch into snatching his nephew's bride. Serena, don't call yourself my daughter again. It's embarrassing. I wish I'd never birthed you. By the time the wrought iron gates of Blackwood Manor loomed, the sky bled crimson dusk. Julian's Ferrari blocked the drive. Smoke curled from the cigarette between his fingers, cigarette butts littering the asphalt. Was he barred from the house or just posturing? Bloodshot eyes locked on me, he charged like a mad dog. Serena, you're really breaking the engagement? I nodded cold. Serena, you dared call me shameless? Looks like you've been warming my uncle's bed all along. You're the slut who spread her legs for him, yet you blame me for the split? Have you no face? Whore. We'd signed the license only hours ago. Rumors travel at light speed behind marble walls. You made the mess, Julian. Don't try to flip the script. He choked on my answer, then spat. Your mother pegged you right, born tramp, ready to jump any man. A low voice cut through the evening air from behind me. Who taught you to address your elders like that? Avery stepped from his Bentley and positioned himself at my side. He slipped an arm around my shoulders, the protectiveness impossible to miss. I was stunned. After the ruckus this afternoon, I'd assumed he wouldn't make it back until late. Julian's fury flickered out the instant Avery flicked a cool glance his way. His lips parted, but not a syllable dared escape. Where are your manners, Julian? At the words, Julian's face cycled white to green, green to white. He gritted his teeth and muttered, Uncle. Aunt. Anne. Avery's tone stayed level, yet it brooked no refusal. Seconds crawled until Julian buckled under the weight of that stare. Reluctantly, he ground out, Sorry, Aunt. Avery's eyes were winter calm. Still here? Want your father to come collect you. Julian's cheek twitched. He dared say nothing more. He bent, scooped up every cigarette, but then slunk to his car and drove off. The large hand on my shoulder tightened, pulling my gaze back to him. The storm-dark aura he'd worn softened the moment he looked at me. It's cold. Let's go home. The minute we stepped into the Blackwood estate, Avery disappeared into the study for an overseas video call. The housekeeper and 2 maids followed me upstairs to unpack. I wandered the suite. The dressing room already held racks of new season clothes and bags. Every label I love. The housekeeper beamed. Mr. Blackwood ordered them, madam. If anything displeases you, just say. I chose a set of silk pajamas. The fit was perfect. After a shower, I killed the lights, but sleep wouldn't come. A little past 1 a.m. Avery slipped in under the moonlight and lay down without a sound. Can't sleep? It was, after all, our wedding night, and the first time I'd ever shared a bed with a man I barely knew. He hadn't turned on a lamp. His face was a faint outline, which oddly calmed me. A bit. I don't do bedtime stories. Then I caught the joke. He was warning me he wasn't the soothing type. I laughed. He could sound solemn even while teasing, as though if I asked he really would start. Once upon a time. I'm not a child. Yet a pang of loss surfaced. No one had ever read me stories. Dad was always at the office. Mom couldn't be bothered. Nannies did the rest. Whiskey nightcap, he offered. Liquid courage. Legally wed, yes, but we were still strangers and I wasn't ready for wifely duties. Okay. He mixed a short one, and we stood on the balcony sipping while the wind cooled our faces. The first swallow blazed a trail to my stomach and spread heat everywhere. I turned, my eyes collided with his. An instant hush fell. Avery dipped his head and kissed me, gently, inexorably. I tilted my chin, accepting the stroke of warm lips, my fingers knotting in his shirt. Breath thinned. He released me, throat working, desire leashed. "Let's go inside," he murmured. I almost asked if that was it. Conjugal expectations had been drummed into me long ago. Reading my doubt, he added, "Tonight isn't right." "What would make it right?" I blurted, expecting some romantic locale or required lingerie. His gaze held mine, curved in a small smile. "When you want it too." For the next 2 weeks, neither Julian nor the Blackwoods stirred trouble. Avery must have clipped their wings. I wanted to thank him face to face, but our schedules never overlapped. Each morning I woke to an empty pillow and a texted live location pin. At first I didn't grasp the point. After the third morning I realized he was checking in. Day after day his mornings began in Bayhaven. At night I'd half-wake to the hush of footsteps. By dawn he was gone again. A guess took shape. Whoever told him I feared the dark had also told him to come home. Before 12 I hadn't been afraid. Once Dad provoked Mom. She smashed vases, then drank herself into a stupor. The maids hid in the kitchen. Brave little me tiptoed in to comfort her. She turned, screaming, slapping, shoving. Next morning the housekeeper couldn't find me. Finally they did. Unconscious in the attic storeroom, blood crusted in my hair. Since then darkness paralyzed me. For months I couldn't sleep alone. Past 2 a.m. Avery, already in silk pajamas, eased the door open. Still awake, I set my phone down. "Waiting for you." "What for?" He slid beneath the quilt and curved an arm around me. I nestled against him. "Cameron, are you flying back just for me?" "I'm swamped." I carve out the commute to cultivate affection. I knew the math. Hundreds of subsidiaries required his signature. He should have stayed in Bayhaven rather than burn midnight hours on the private jet. I studied fashion. After graduation, a friend and I opened a studio. I design, she markets. I'm half freelance. I can work anywhere. If the round trips exhaust him, I can ferry myself. "Let me travel with you." "I can work remotely." He glanced over, eyes soft. "Thanks for the TLC, wife." That night, held against his steady heartbeat, I slept like the world was safe. Avery's Bayhaven deal stretched into a third week, so we moved to his beachfront estate there. I'd arranged a fishing trip with friends and messaged him. "Fresh catch for dinner. Join us?" His reply was instant. "Client dinner tonight." "Don't wait." I'd expected nothing less. I told the cook to drop his place setting. Channel surfing, I froze. A familiar face filled the screen. A business summit broadcast live. Avery sat opposite the anchor. 6 renowned economists lined behind him. Time stamp, 5:48 p.m. My phone said he'd texted at 5:46. He'd answered me while on national television. Hours later I lay awake until the mattress dipped and the scent of shower gel and scotch drifted over. "How many drinks did you have?" I whispered. He was already watching me, exhausted, cheeks flushed, yet his eyes blazed alive. One look, hotter than our wedding night, crackled through every nerve. His cool, clean scent wrapped around me until breathing felt like borrowing his air. My gaze slid to the slow roll of his throat, and desire caught me off guard. "Cameron, is tonight the right timing?" I hadn't forgotten his rule. A long arm hooked my waist, his mouth hovered a finger width away. Whenever my wife wants, the timing's perfect. The heat in his stare made my heart stutter. "But you're drunk, can you even perform?" The words had barely left his mouth before my lips were pried open. He drove in deep, refusing to let go. Avery braced himself above me. The top 2 buttons of the silk pajamas he always kept perfectly fastened were, tonight, mysteriously undone. The clean lines of his chest tapered into the faint shadow of abs. Veins faintly risen beneath the skin advertised exactly how excited he was. I swallowed instinctively and went rigid. He noticed. His low voice was velvet stretched over steel. "Relax, wife." When I woke the next morning, Avery was still there. Our eyes locked, and belated heat flooded my cheeks. I rolled away and reached for clothes. My phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. She never initiated contact. "What now?" I picked up. 3 sentences in, my hands were shaking. I hung up. I swallowed the urge to scream. Avery's arms slid around me from behind. He nestled his chin in the curve of my neck. Sounded like your mother wants something? I had no intention of obeying. I wouldn't let her win again. Whatever she wants, she can figure it out herself. If I don't have it, how am I supposed to conjure it? She had never once mentioned Avery, but I wasn't stupid. She wanted me to beg him. Even if our marriage amounted to more than a thin sheet of paper, I wouldn't pimp his influence for her. What exactly is it you don't have? Avery, famously terse, actually pressed for an answer. I stayed silent. He turned my shoulders until I faced him. Cool eyes softened into a reassuring smile. Whatever anyone else has, you'll have it too. A simple sentence, yet my throat stung. I tilted my head. And things no one else has. If you want it, I'll move heaven and earth. I thought of my mother's limitless demands, her conviction that my life belonged to her because she'd given it. Unless she deemed something worthless, she reserved the right to rearrange my future. She never asked what I wanted, never once stood up for me when I was hurting. A bitter ache flickered through me. I dug my nails into my palms and forced the bitterness down. Aren't you going to ask what I want? You already told me your wife can't cross your bottom line. What if the thing I want lies beyond that line? He didn't hesitate. My wife is my bottom line. His calm declaration slid across my heart, smoothing its frantic flutter. I blinked back tears. And if your wife's plan hurts the Blackwood family? The room seemed to stop breathing. Every second ached. Avery held my gaze, a slow smile curving his mouth. I'll teach you how to make the Blackwoods bleed even more. I froze. I stared, certain he was joking. His expression remained grave. He meant every syllable. The soft words sanded away years of buried grievance. Avery, I'm serious. I'm not as soft as you think. My wife doesn't need to be soft. For an instant I glimpsed the fierce current beneath his usual poise. So what does your wife have to do? He brushed a tear from the corner of my eye. Just stay beside me always. We had barely stepped back into Blackwood Manor when Mom's car pulled up. In the drawing room, she sipped tea with delicate poise. Avery's voice was mild. Tell me what you need, Mrs. Vance. Serena's shy, no need to put her on the spot. I heard you bought a ruby parure for Serena last month. She's too young for stones that heavy. Lend it to me for tomorrow's gala. On the phone, she'd also demanded I bring Chloe and introduce her to Adrian. Adrian, eldest son of Avery's late brother, was everything Julian wasn't: polished, connected, destined for office. Help Chloe land him, she'd chirped. And you two can watch each other's backs. I'd ignored every word. Silence pooled. Avery's tone chilled. Too young? Are you questioning my taste? With that, he redirected her fire toward himself. Mom never baited a lion. She backpedaled. I only meant Serena isn't used to fine jewelry. Ignoring her, Avery rang my father and hit speaker. Mr. Vance, explain why your wife is in my house harassing mine. If the Vance family is so broke it can't afford baubles, say so. Serena and I won't let you starve. His steady cadence left no doubt whose side he owned. Mom's face bleached. She bullied me often, but never in Dad's hearing. Their marriage was already a skeleton. Dad, abroad and desperate for our alliance to prop up several deals, spilled apologies and cursed her idiocy through the line. Mom slunk away. The following evening I entered the gala on Avery's arm, the last to arrive. Heads swiveled, cameras flashed. Whispers fluttered around us. First-time President Blackwoods brought his wife, perfect match. Weddings in 6 months. I need an invite to that billionaire bash. After smiling through introductions, I slipped aside to breathe. Mom cornered me with Chloe, eyes raking over my throat. You're not wearing the rubies either, but you wouldn't lend them. Should have raised a dog instead of an ungrateful daughter. Avery's vault held plenty. I'd chosen a diamond suite that flattered my gown. Cameras lurked, so I stayed quiet and tried to step past. Chloe blocked me. Cousin, Aunt isn't finished. Walking away is rude and heartless. Mom sniffed. Adrian's here. Take Chloe over and sing her praises. She's younger, prettier, and sweeter. She'll hook him fast. Afterward, listen to her. Family should stick together. I nearly laughed. Even if I wanted to play matchmaker, Adrian's pedigree wasn't up for grabs by a penniless cousin. Before I could refuse without causing a scene, a male voice rang out behind me. Aunt! I turned. Adrian approached, Julian and a cluster of younger Blackwoods in tow. Uncle posted he'd be here, so I hoped I'd see you. We barely spoke in Bayhaven. Adrian's courtesy was textbook. He glanced back. Say hello, guys. They chorused, good evening, Aunt. Julian, hovering at the rear, kept his mouth shut. I couldn't be bothered with him, so I just smiled and nodded to everyone else. Mom beamed, cutting in. That must be Adrian, famous before we met, and every inch the prodigy. My brother's daughter here is about your age. You young people mingle, get to know each other. As soon as she finished, she nudged Chloe. Blushing to the roots of her hair, Chloe pitched herself toward Adrian's chest. Humiliating. I stepped forward half a pace, clamping my fingers around Chloe's arm. Adrian, I'm feeling off. Could you find your uncle and let him know I'm taking Mom and Chloe to the lounge? Adrian caught the strangeness in Mom and Chloe. He offered a gentle smile and played along. Of course. 3rd floor, East Corridor, Blackwood Family Lounge. Aunt can head straight there. He left with his entourage. Half dragging, half threatening, I herded Mom and Chloe into the lounge. I don't care what stunt you're planning, drop it now, or I won't hesitate to have Dad divorce you. For years Dad had threatened divorce, each time backing off because of me. I kept telling myself she was still the woman who gave birth to me. Without Dad, no one could keep her in the lifestyle she considered oxygen. Serena, you wouldn't dare. Watch me. This time I didn't retreat as I used to. I could endure her bullying me. I couldn't stomach her smearing mud across the Blackwood name, dragging Avery through it. You. I spun to Chloe. The Blackwoods aren't on your menu. With that IQ, you'll never see the knife that ends you. I stalked out, ready to requisition a pair of Blackwood bodyguards to keep them caged. Outside I ran straight into Avery. He closed the distance, weaving his fingers through mine, studying me top to toe. You okay? My heart warmed. I shook my head gently. Fine. The queasy bit was just cover. Avery flicked a glance at the lounge door. Need me to handle it? The rumors about his methods were encyclopedic. Mom and my cousin in his hands could drown in their own screams. I shook my head again. I've got it. Good. Mr. Kingsley's here and wants to meet you. Feel up to it. I laughed softly. A tantrum that small won't dent my mood. Let's go. As Avery led me downstairs, I thought I glimpsed Julian slipping into the lounge corridor. When I looked again, he'd already disappeared inside. The Blackwood suites were numerous, probably just another room. Who's got you staring, Mrs. Blackwood? Avery's mock-jealous drawl yanked my attention back. Are the left and right wings connected? I asked. He didn't hedge. So you did spot him. What you can't stomach, I'll do for you. He'd deliberately sent Julian to the lounge? What game was he running? Before I could ask, Mr. Kingsley spotted us, waving jovially from a few steps away. All night a parade of people angled to greet Avery. Most were strangers, a handful. The faces that haunt finance blogs and tabloids looked familiar. I stayed on his arm, glass in hand at first, standing, chatting. When fatigue hit, he found a quiet sofa for us. Even there, the line never thinned. Usually they spoke, Avery listened, replying once or twice, and the visitor's smile widened. Only once did the script derail. A female executive raised her glass, praising Avery's suit. President Blackwood, tonight's tailored suit is on another level. You wear it, and it mirrors Madam's gown perfectly. That suit had been his requested wedding gift from me. I design mostly women's wear. I feared his bespoke tailors would scoff. Yet he'd worn it to the most scrutinized event of the season, letting me knot a silk scarf at his throat that sharpened the quiet power he radiated. To echo him, I'd chosen a gown in the same palette. You've got an eye, Avery answered the executive with a cool smile. After that, every newcomer found an excuse to compliment Avery's clothes. Just as orders at the studio I co-own began exploding, Chloe rang me on video, mascara bleeding down her cheeks. Cousin, Julian cheated again. Ever since the gala, when Julian followed Mom and Chloe into the lounge, he'd upgraded Chloe to girlfriend. Their P.R. circus had been daily fodder on social feeds. A playboy like him treasures nothing that flings itself at him. I don't even know who he's screwing, she wept. I spread my hands. Crying to me? Check your bestie's inbox. I don't recycle hand-me-downs. Rage eclipsed her tears at the reminder. Before she hung up, she pleaded, You're his aunt, make him behave. I shrugged. Relax. His sun is already setting. I'd asked Avery once whether sabotaging Blackwood interests would anger him. He'd said no. For 2 months, I'd quietly frozen Julian's orders. Dad built his fortune on apparel, then expanded. We own 8 plants in the States, dozens across Southeast Asia and Africa. Julian's father had inherited the logistics arm of the Blackwood Empire. Hundreds of trucking outfits and half the container terminals in Eastbrook. After graduation, Julian launched a streetwear label, branded as affordable luxury. Designs from my studio, inventory from our plants, shipping through Blackwood lines, marketing by Julian. Days later, he stormed into the atrium, only to be blocked by the estate's security. When the housekeeper alerted me, I knew he'd finally connected the dots. Had he been sober, he'd have noticed weeks earlier, but lingerie models and bottle service blinded him until the stores were practically bare. He caught me leaving the studio, unshaven, eyes so bloodshot the pampered prince was unrecognizable. I couldn't resist. When did you last wash your face? Even kindergartners know soap exists. His fists clenched, crimson veins pulsing in his sclera. Serena, you're really going for the throat. Cancel the orders and I bleed 1,000, you 800. Are you brain dead? I gave him a board once over. Who says I'm bleeding? We're swamped, your volume barely registers. He lurched closer, spluttering, but I cut in. Do notify your investor. Mom's nest egg is circling the drain. She'd poured her life savings into Julian, so Chloe could wear the Blackwood crown. Idiocy of the first rank. A week later, word spread. Auditors were crawling over Julian's books, buried evidence of tax fraud surfacing. The brand was finished, prison loomed. Avery texted to ask me to dinner. The restaurant was overheated, so I slipped off my wrap coat. Underneath, I wore an emerald velvet strapless gown. The strand of pearls at my throat was the one he'd given me a few days earlier. Avery lifted his gaze and hesitated for a beat. Our eyes locked. His stare drifted to my bare shoulders, dark and unreadable. What's wrong? Put your coat back on. Realizing the words had come out harsh, he added, I'm not trying to police what you wear, but you're directly under the vent. Want to switch seats? I noticed 2 men at the next table flicking covert glances my way. I pulled the coat on again. No need to move. Avery looked away, turning to the menu. See what you feel like eating. While we waited for the food, he brought up my mother. Your mother-in-law took a heavy hit this time. Should we? No. It's better if she's broke. Only then will she finally tuck her tail in and stop bouncing around. That was exactly why my father had never raised her supplementary card limit in all these years. Is it true Julian's company evaded taxes? Avery gave a slight nod. Mainly the finance chief's oversight. Julian signed without double-checking. Still, a scare will do him good. So the leak had come from him. I asked nothing more. Yet Avery, unusually, offered a few extra sentences. The streetwear label will be shuttered. In a while he'll be posted to the African branch for training. He'd meant it when he said he could make the Blackwoods lose even more. This time Julian had fallen hard. Losses in the 8 figures at minimum. Shipping him to Africa, though. Wasn't that a little personal? Reading the doubt in my eyes, Avery said, As his uncle, I'm simply honing the younger generation. The day Julian left for Africa, Avery went to see him off. Stay in Africa the full 3-year exile. Don't come back before. Julian's eyes bulged. What do you mean, uncle? When did I ever offend you? Avery's deep gaze was calm, his voice steady. You haven't. Julian barked. Then why? Avery raised his eyes, held Julian's for a long moment, and said, You shouldn't have treated her that way. You shouldn't have treated her that way. The sentence exploded in Julian's skull. Though Avery never spoke her name, Julian knew exactly which her he meant. Who else could it be? Disbelieving, Julian shook his head. Aren't uncle and her just a power match? When did feelings run this deep? Gooseflesh swept up his arms. The tax evasion scandal that tanked the company. That was you too, wasn't it? But why? His voice trembled between rage and fear. Avery knew precisely which words would break him completely. Because she's my wife, he said, lips curving. You shouldn't have dragged a woman into our marital bed, been caught on camera, and turned her into a laughingstock. But I'm your own nephew. Julian lunged like a madman. 2 bodyguards in black pinned him and marched him up the jetway. After several all-nighters at the studio, I received an SOS from Avery's assistant. Madam, please spare the children. The boss pulled all-nighters last week, then you did, and now he's at it again. We're dying here. The message came with a photo. a brightly lit office full of slumped assistants wearing the Walking Dead look. I suddenly remembered that Avery had been texting me every evening to ask when I was clocking out. Was he waiting for me to come home? I'm heading home now. I sent that line to both the assistant and Avery. When my driver reached Blackwood Estate, Avery's car pulled in right behind. He sat in the back seat holding a file, conjuring the meme the assistant had sent, legs crossed, lids half-lowered, side-eye sharp with aloof disdain. Sensing my stare, he set the papers aside and turned. The instant our eyes met, the chill in his gaze melted into tenderness. No overtime tonight? The roll of his Adam's apple gave the simple question a slow, intimate ache. He carried me to bed. When he leaned down to kiss me, the touch was liquid softness. Yet charged with such restrained feeling it set every nerve shuddering, the tremor spreading from my lips to the soles of my feet. Baby, you've iced me out for days. Tonight you're paying the interest. I didn't ice you out, I've been buried at the studio. I suddenly recalled the rumor I'd heard that afternoon. Julian's African exile, 3 years minimum, had come at his insistence. Every kindness he'd shown me since our wedding had been piling up in plain sight. I studied the man above me. His bones even sexier than his face, broad back and solid chest radiating magnetic pull. His hand cupped the nape of my neck while he turned to trail kisses downward, lingering at every inch of skin. Soft pecks, then slow suction. I laced our fingers, fighting my own tremor, and finally asked the question lodged against my heart. Avery, when you married me, was it impulse, or something you'd plotted for a long time? He stilled, veins corded in the arms braced over me. I tipped my head, pulse thundering. Those hypnotic eyes held mine as he rasped. Plotted for a long time. My breath hitched, my heart lurched with it. He brushed his mouth across my shoulder, and with one instinctive, rapid roll, my body clenched and quaked around him. At the height, the world fractured and crashed like the Jordan bursting its banks. Outside, rain had started to fall. Drops hammering the plantain leaves, water meeting milk within. Inside, even when I sobbed myself hoarse, Avery refused to let the storm subside. Only when I lay limp and spent did he tuck me against his chest and slip into sleep. Half conscious, I thought, I must never freeze him out again. A man left starving too long is downright terrifying. Avery's side story. The first time I saw her, she stepped out of a chauffeured car, radiant and regal, and though I sat right beside her, she never noticed me. The second time, she was staring at Julian, freshly back from London. I stood behind her and brushed her shoulder as I turned. The third time I occupied the head of the table, and she was already engaged to Julian. When our eyes met, the single word uncle snapped the taut thread inside me. The wind howled, Julian had vanished. Snowflakes layered like feathers on her coat while she waited, the tip of her nose scarlet. A few steps forward would have taken her out of the storm, yet she stayed in the street. I draped my coat over her shoulders. I'll drive you home. Whatever emergency Julian claimed, he had no excuse for leaving his fiancé in a blizzard on their engagement night. When I heard the security feed from the marital house had caught something, I knew my moment had arrived. Seasons turned, and once silent Blackwood Estate changed its song. Now the quiet study rang with toddler babble. Evening breeze stirred as I walked her through the garden while we talked of nothing and everything. Rustle of leaves, birds settling home. I used to regret that power plays had made me miss her first awakening to love. But later I thought, Rowan, we still have lifetimes to begin again. Thanks for listening to today's story. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? If you liked the video, please hit like and share it with friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more great stories. See you next time.